Hello, so in this video we're going to take a look at configuring our CentOS machine further and increasing the sophistication of our network. If you want to take a look at where we had left off, remember we were working towards statically configuring and installing our CentOS machine, so I've logged in here as the root user, and if I do an IPA, remember for this guy we had two network connectors, two network adapters on this machine, so that was a little different than the others. We had an ENP0S3 with an IP address of 192.168.1.1, and then we had an ENP0S8, which is meant to be a 192.168.2.1. So kind of two different network adapters we've already previously statically configured. And if you remember also, our Metasploitable machine was also put on its own internal network of a 192.168.2.101. So he's meant to be on the 192.168.2, where the other two devices are on a 192.168.1. So that's kind of what we did in the previous video. I wanted to maybe just throw in a quick little diagram for this one as well, just because sometimes the numbers make it a little foggy as to what it is we're actually trying to do. So here's just a quick little picture I made in PowerPoint real quick. So this is what we had before. This is what we had before with our three original machines. It was just a very, very flat network. There was no gateways or anything like that. We had 192.168.1. It was the network for everybody, and everyone was 101, 102, 103. And what we want is we want the option to, when CentOS is on, to have a network that looks a little bit more like this, where the CentOS is acting as a router, separating the external zone from the internal zone. And that's kind of what we have. The yellow is the external and the green is the internal. That was something we had configured in that config file. And what we're doing is we're kind of moving our Metasploitable machine, which happens to have a web service and as well as other services, to be on the 192.168.2 network. So that's going to kind of be on the internal zone, and the CentOS is going to act as a router to kind of bridge these two zones, bridge these two different networks, the 192.168.1, where our Ubuntu and Kali will be, as opposed to our Metasploitable, who's going to be on 192.168.2. So hopefully this picture just gives a little bit better idea. And in some videos we might want the infrastructure to look like this. Some of them will switch back and we'll just have a nice simple flat network where everyone can kind of directly see each other. So, but anyways, this is kind of what we currently have in terms of a network layout. Now what we don't have is we don't actually have any of the routing set up. We have not configured any of the routing rules. So the gateways have been configured, the interfaces have been set statically, but we haven't told our CentOS machine, hey, go ahead and start routing traffic kind of between these two networks. The adapters exist, but the rules within CentOS don't exist yet. And that's something that we're going to have to take a look at. So if you remember, I do have my MSF admin guy configured to be 192.168.2.101, and I had said this actually has a website going right now. So if I were to go over to Kali right now and try to access the website running on the Metasploitable machine, am I actually going to be able to reach it? And the answer should be no. 192.168.2.101, because he's on a different network. There's no routing going on right now. If I actually try to hit this, it says unable to connect. I don't see a way to actually get there. There's no current path that allows me to have my network traffic on 192.168.1 reach over to 192.168.2. But this is going to be the goal. When we're done, can I actually have our Metasploitable machine have the website sitting on this internal network and have an externally facing device, such as my Metasploitable guy or my Ubuntu guy, can he actually go and hit the website directly? So we've got some additional configuration here to do in our Cent machine. And 1, 2, 3, kind of here away we go. So in order to actually kind of further configure our CentOS machine, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to further add in a whole bunch of rules and a whole bunch of additional configuration changes to the networking. So first we're going to have to make an additional file which will allow the IP forwarding to occur between the two different network interfaces. So if you remember, we're going to do all this through VI. So I'm going to go vi/etc.d/IP_forward.conf. So this is a file that doesn't exist. It's a new file, and we're going to have to create it. And inside this file, we're going to type out, hitting an I to go to insert mode. We're going to type out net.ipv4.ip_forward equals 1. I'm all done doing my insert mode, so I hit escape. To actually write out this file, remember in VI you go :WQ to do a write and quit. So if I were to actually take a look now in this particular location, do an ls/etc/sysctl.d, okay, we should now see that we just added in this file. Okay, what we're now going to do is do a sysctl command -p to actually run this file, and this will be a /etc/sysctl.d/ip_forward.conf. And what you should see is it should see what we just kind of typed out spits out there under the screen. And what that did is that just set it so that IPv4 forwarding is now enabled for this particular computer. Next, we have to actually go through and configure the router aspect. And the router aspect is something that's going to be done a lot through the firewall. And now the firewall that this is currently running is Firewall D. So there's a lot of good references on the internet. If you Google Firewall D, how do I do something in Firewall D? That's going to be very, very useful. I'm only going to show some of the introductory commands kind of to get this particular example up and running. But anytime I need to, how do I do something with this, it's Firewall D. The commands for Firewall D, they start with firewall-cmd. Okay, so I'm going to type out firewall-cmd a whole bunch here as we run the different firewall commands and set the different firewall rules that we're looking for. Okay, so a very common command or option we're going to do is a --permanent. Anytime we're running some of these commands and I don't want to continue to do this command this time and then the next time I restart the device, we can continue to do this through a --permanent. We're going to do a --direct --pass-through IPv4 to allow traffic to get passed through, a -t-nat, we're going to have network address translation going on here, -i post routing, all in caps, -o, and then we want our interface name, and this is going to be our internal interface, so this is ENP0S3, okay, -j masquerade will allow masquerading internally. Oop, let me do that all in caps as well. Masquerade -s, then we want all traffic on 255.255.255.0, and this is going to be a /24 is what we currently have here for our network. So all traffic on a Class C network is going to be run through our firewall. Okay, let's see, we go ahead and hit enter, we should get a success after that. The next command we'll go and we'll run is a firewall-cmd --change -interface equals. So we want to change our ENP0S3 interface to be --zone equals external. And we want this to be permanent, so we'll say --permanent as well. Okay, so we're changing the zone that our interface is currently operating on. Okay, so that'll move that one over to external. Next will be to set our default zone. So firewall-cmd -set default zone equals internal. Success. And now let's reload the firewall. cmd -complete -reload. So that'll reload the firewall with these settings that we're changing. Now we get to go ahead and restart some services. So let's do a systemctl restart network, as well as a systemctl restart firewall D to restart the network settings as well as restart our firewall D settings. Okay, so let's take a look at what our current settings look like. Firewall-cmd --list all. And when we take a look at this, we'll see it spits out some information about our current firewall. You see here I've got an internal. This is the internal zone, and the interface for this is ENP0S8. And there are some services that are currently allowed for this particular configuration. I'm going to hit an up arrow and say firewall-cmd --list all. And now let's take a look at our external zone. So --zone equals external. And this specifically spits out information for our external zone. And this one is the ENP0S3. Services we have going on here is SSH. That's it for that. And masquerading is currently allowed, yes. Okay, so next what I'd like to try to set up is to try to configure some port forwarding. So right now I want to allow traffic. You see here under forward ports it's not actually forwarding anything, but I'd like to set up a port forwarding rule so that any traffic that hits my interface is going to get automatically forwarded to my website. So this is a one way I could forward ports. This is not necessarily the way that you might want to do it for all traffic. So I want you to understand what is the rule I'm setting up and why might you want to do it this way. So I'm specifically setting it up because I just want any of the website traffic, any of my port 80 traffic that actually hits this interface, I want to get to be sent to my internal router, excuse me, to my internal VM that's actually running the website through my router. Okay, so I'm going to go firewall-cmd zone equals external --add forward port equals 80 protocol proto equals TCP 2 ports equals 80 to address ADDR equals, and this is the address of my VM, 192.168.2.101. So let's go ahead and run that, and it said success. I'll hit 2 up arrows to go and do my list all zone external again and see. And we'll see I just added in a port forwarding rule to allow traffic to go from port forward coming in to send to port forward at the address 192.168.2.101. Okay, so this is good, and I'm also going to do the same thing for 443. Okay, so we'll be able to hit HTTPS traffic as well. So we'll hit 2 up arrows. I'll type all this out again, and essentially what I want to do is I just want to change my 80s to 443 to allow HTTPS traffic as well. So I'm going to backspace it out there, change the first 80, as well as change the second 80 to 443 and hit enter. So now when I do that same command, the firewall-cmd --list all --zone equals external, I run that, and you should hopefully see I now have 2 port forwarding rules that have been added into my firewall to allow traffic that comes in on port 80 to automatically be redirected to port 80 on 192.168.2.101, which is where my Metasploitable machine is currently sitting. Okay, so this is something that is hopefully now got the port forwarding rules set up, and we'll be able to give it a try over here. So able to say password to get into this guy, and we'll get to see if I now open another tab and say 192.168.2.101 and I hit enter, you see I do successfully get redirected to the website that Metasploitable 2 is currently running. Okay, and we'll take a look at some of the website services in a future video, but there's a bunch of different website applications that we can do vulnerable things for testing that are available on Metasploitable. So we've successfully added in a couple port forwarding rules that allow the traffic to actually get through from one particular service to the other.